a GG1 with a coal train, as well as a mixed freight being hauled by a Santa Fe locomotive right here. Since the last live stream, I've done some updates to the layout. As you can see, the gully has been added on right here, including some of the scenery, and we've got some just kind of loosely laid out things for some future expansion into the yard right there. I've also been doing a little bit of work ballasting the layout, so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm going to quickly set it to live chat here, so hopefully I can get everybody's messages. Some of the people joining in right now might have been part of a previous live stream, which I actually was just running a few minutes ago. I wanted to adjust some settings, but unfortunately, to adjust the settings on your phone, you actually have to rotate it to be upright, but it won't let you do that if you're running a horizontal live stream. So, yeah, anyway, I did some adjustments. Hopefully they worked. As everybody joins in, I'm sure somebody will be able to tell if the audio sounds normal and you can actually hear the trains this time, because before it was just isolating it so you could only hear my voice, which is no good. A whole bunch of people joining in. Long time no see. The Gorge is back. Yeah, it's nice to see it there. It really makes this look a little bit more complete. And I think the next phase of expansion is going to be finally building that locomotive staging area. The audio sounds better. Okay. Good, good, good. No issues. It's fine. That's great to hear. That's the best thing anybody could say. My Clementine Tycho engine is not moving. Is the motor making any sound? I got something to tell you. I'll go right ahead. It means you're going to have two sets of sidings. Sort of, but they both serve different purposes. SMT, I have a... Oh, question just went away. SMT, I have what could be problems with the brass 060 switcher because it is in good condition, but when all the wheels are on, it stalls. Only the back wheels can be on. Well, that's weird for an 060. I would say that one of your wheel sets must be flipped the wrong way, because it shouldn't be doing that if one set of audio, if one set is working fine, the rest should be good. No music or train audio, just your voice, but it sounds fine. Really? Well, I might have to try to change things. I was able to do it in a private live stream behind the scenes, but again, it will only let me do it if the phone is rotated the right way. So I might have to figure out another way to fix this. But they really love making things difficult for you. You know, it's like everything was working fine a few months ago with this method of live streaming, and then they go and change the microphone settings. Why? I don't know. As the mechanic from Matilda would say, they love testing the ingenuity of the American businessman. They worked. Can you run a Providence and Worcester engine? Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure where in the shelf it is, but I'll see if I can find it. If anybody sees it, let me know. I was running it in a live stream not too long ago, so I would reckon it's not very far away. Just gonna see too if I can fix the audio problem. Bear with me for a second here. Maybe not. It's red and black. I know what it looks like. I'm just not sure where on the shelf it is. Except right there. Haha. Evening SMT in chat. the fire alarm system at my old job was made by Tyco. I don't think they're related. All right, I think I'll swap out the GG1 here. I'll run it the other direction too, because that's something that a lot of people like to see. I'm lurking on hockey and watching in Montreal. Yeah, I've heard Montreal's been doing pretty good in hockey lately. A lot of support around here from Montreal, actually. I've been seeing a lot of cars driving around with those Montreal flags out the window. So since I can't manually fix the sound problems, I'm just going to plug in an external microphone. If that helps things. Do you know where I could possibly sell some of my HO scale engines? I switched to scale a while back. Depends kind of how much money you want to get for them. If you're willing to get like a minimal amount, you could take them to a hobby shop. Again, they're going to be giving you a basement price for them because they want some room to flip them. So if you do take your engines to a hobby shop, don't be expecting any crazy gains. Another option is to sell them on Marketplace, and that will work. It might take some time because the market is a little bit limited depending on where you live, but that's an option. The only downshot to that is, of course, you have to deal with Facebook Marketplace, which if you've ever sold anything on Facebook, you'll know what I'm talking about. So there's that. And then check if there's any train shows in your area. Sometimes you can rent a table for like $5 and sell your stuff off that way. So there are some ideas. Of course, you could also list everything on eBay. You're going to get the most money on eBay, I would say, but I've never sold anything on eBay myself, so I can't say what the experience is like. You know where I could possibly... Okay, I already read that comment. Antique shops could be a good option, possibly, as well. Yeah, that's a good point. What track without roadbed would you recommend? Atlas, Snap Track, and Pico switches. I got a 14-year-old Bachmann Union Pacific steam locomotive, but it won't move. What's wrong? Well, it depends. If you can hear the motor humming, you know it's getting power, and it's probably just seized. If nothing is happening at all, either the engine's not picking up power or there's a short circuit. You can identify if it's a short circuit by putting another engine on the track, and if the other engine moves at a normal speed, then you know it's not a short circuit. If the other engine moves at a really slow speed or not at all, you know that engine is causing the short. What brand do you recommend for starters? In terms of train sets, I actually recommend Bachmann to some extent because they sell the cheapest sets. Like you can buy some Bachmann train sets for $130, which is pretty good. I would avoid any Bachmann train sets over $130 though, because I'm not a big fan of Bachmann in terms of quality. I just like those cheaper sets because they are the most affordable out there. If you have a little bit more money, I'd probably go with Walther's train line. Their stuff is, in my opinion, a little bit higher quality than Bachmann. if you really got some means, you could, of course, go with Kato or Kato, depending on how you say it. A lot of people like that. Do you remember me from the flooded basement a few streams ago? I do remember a comment like that, yeah. SMT, I have a 4449 HO scale engine, and it doesn't get any grip. It makes a dreadful noise, but it runs. Well, I'd probably stop running it if I were you. That doesn't sound good. If it's an older Bachmann or Lionel, yeah. I don't want to be a bummer, but I don't know if I'd bother fixing it, to be honest. I fixed a few on the channel, and they are a nightmare. Is it normal if one engine goes one way and another goes the opposite? It's not a problem. It just means that one of the engines is wired backwards. It could be, sometimes if a DCC engine has a decoder and it's been installed backwards, it can cause that. Or if it's a DC engine, it could just mean the wires actually going to the motor itself are wired backwards. Not a terrible thing. If you want to run trains in other directions on the same line, you can do it that way on DC power, but yeah, it does mean there's an irregularity. Rave Train, welcome. I own a wartime black 1980 Southern Pacific GS4, but one day the model's wheels suddenly came out of place. I didn't drop it or anything. Do you know what could have happened? Is it common? It's one of the most common issues for engines of that era by Bachmann or Lionel. Basically what happens is Bachmann fit both wheels around a nylon sleeve, and it's an interference fit, which means the metal is pushing out against that nylon. And so what happens over time is the nylon can't take the stress, it cracks, and then the wheels, which are being, held at a perfect quarter by that piece of nylon, slip. They kind of go like that. And so, yeah, and unfortunately, it's quite hard to fix, but it's not an operation fault. So it's not anything you did to it. It's just something that happens to those. If you go on eBay and look for 80s, even some 90s era Bachmann GS4s, you'll see that problem on almost every listing. Do you like Go trains? I do. I've got a few of them. Thanks for your recommendation for Atlas, Track, and Pico switches. Was building your first proper layout. I was watching you build your first proper layout. It's been fantastic. Thank you. And the person who had the flooded basement says, I'm the guy. I'm doing a lot better with the new HO scale Bachmann set and carpet being installed. Doing awesome. Want to donate, but I'm broke. Well, don't worry about donating to the live stream. If your basement's flooded, invest in some trains. Get things rebuilt. I got into model trains because about how you go about your videos to post online. I don't know what your address is yet. Well, the P.O. box is currently closed, so I'm not bringing in any new parcels at the moment, but I appreciate the offer a great deal. Any plans to travel to the United States and see the big boy up close? I would love to. I'm not sure if I will or not. Things have just been busy, getting the house in order and everything, but I am going to be going to the States for a family trip to Maine, so there's probably going to be some train content out there. Unfortunately, the big boy isn't coming anywhere near that side of the coast, so I wish that would work out, but that's about it in terms of plans at the moment. I would love to see the big boy, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Last few trips, road trips I've gone on, something's always gone wrong. I don't know what it is. Like a magnet for trouble. Can you run the NYC Hudson? Yeah, I think we can do that. You should buy an airbrush. It's not a bad idea. I need to learn how to use one, but yeah, definitely be a lot more precise than rattle cans. Well, looks like we got a super chat. UP 1055. Tomorrow is the last day of school for finals. If you can wish me luck. Well, I wish you luck on your finals there. Hopefully everything goes well. And congratulations on the last day of school. I haven't been in school myself for a while, but I remember the feeling. What is a good tip on getting a locomotive for my first repair? I live in the US and I have about $20, preferably a steamer, but I don't care. If you want a steam engine work on in that price range, I'd probably look for older Mantua Tyco steam locomotives. You can buy those in non-working order pretty cheap, and the parts are relatively good quality. If you want a diesel, I'd probably get an old Athearn Blue Box. Those are a dime a dozen, and they're pretty easy to work on. So, yeah, one of those. I guess an old IHC or Mahano would probably be a good choice if you're really determined to find a steam locomotive. But the thing about the IHC Mahano engines, I don't find you see too many of them in poor condition. The only thing that seemed to go bad on those quite often are the motors. Mr. Harrison, I wanted to know if you received a package I sent with some custom locomotives and a letter. A flat back box, also fragile labels. I'd like to see it in a video. I'll have to check if that came in before I closed the box. I've got a few boxes that I've been meaning to open up, so it might be part of that. Is there a spare parts for my grandfather's Lionel 00 gauge engine? I'm hoping I could get it working for him. It hasn't run in many years. It depends on the engine, but I think a lot of the parts on those were cross-compatible with similar engines. So if you needed some parts, you could probably buy a donor engine fairly cheap and just salvage some parts off that. Trying to buy specific spare parts is something that a lot of people in the community want. Like, everybody's just looking for, one drawbar or something like that. But the problem is that there's just not a whole lot in terms of dealers for parts. So with the exception of, just being lucky at a train show or 3D printing, pretty much the only way you're going to get spare parts is just to buy another engine that's similar enough that you can steal some parts off it. Der Deutsch Professor, welcome. The layout is looking really good. I see you've built the Gorge. Yeah, finally got that all set up. I'll show this a little bit more in detail too, because I actually made some changes which will reveal themselves as being a bit different from the previous setup. So a lot of this is the original structure. However, it's been raised about 3 inches. To me, it just looks a bit more realistic. It's just a little bit less of an incline. And this side went together pretty well. I obviously had to cut it down, but I'm quite happy with how that's looking. On the other side, however, I had to rebuild this. This is all brand new material. I just took spray foam, then I cut it up once it had dried and carved it out, painted it, and I think it makes a decent look for sort of like rocky mountain with bits of grass growing on it. Still need to add a lot of detail in terms of bushes and so on, but it's just nice to see something here again, and it also makes me feel a little bit better if somehow something derails going this way. It's probably not going to fall off the layout. SMT, should I try to find somebody to repair a first-gen Rivarossi Big Boy, or should I just go out and buy a new one? It hasn't run in 30 years, and it hasn't shown any signs of life. Okay, so if you already have a Union Pacific Big Boy model and you're asking if it's worth putting the money into fixing it over just going out and buying a new one, if you already own it, I would say it probably is worth it. Try to get a quote, like see if there's a hobby shop in your area that has somebody that can do the job, because like my local hobby shop would usually only charge about $15 for a repair. So if it's a simple repair, $15 is not a lot of money to pay for a big boy. If you want something that's going to be surefire, reliable, though, go out and buy a brand new one because the older River Rossi big boys, they're not low quality engines. They have well made parts. I don't find the parts stay together very well. I've had a lot of issues where they throw bolts and things like that, and then the whole thing becomes unquartered. So if you're willing to put up with that, you know, that's the price you pay for getting a cheaper engine. But you are going to have that risk of less reliability. Where's the chassis at? I don't know. We could definitely run one. Got to see right now if the Dreyfus Hudson will pull the coal train. Where should I buy an Athearn Blue Box locomotive? Preferably at a train show if there's any in your area. I find that's where you usually get the best deals on train. Well, I mean, it's kind of the same for any other brand, but I don't think I've ever been to a train show that hasn't had at least one Athearn Blue Box engine for sale. Like, they're so common. And that's a great thing. All right, there goes the Richard Dreyfus. What would you recommend for DC and DCC sound locomotives at train shows, go or no go? Buying DCC and DCC sound locomotives at a train show, I would say, is pretty risky because I think some sellers, honestly, they're bringing so many different items, they might lose track of what engines have DCC and sound and which ones are DC. But I've heard a lot of stories about somebody who's bought an engine and the seller claims it has DCC and sound, which means you pay a real premium because obviously they're worth a lot more that way. They get the engine home and it turns out just to be DC. So unless it's in its original box and it has all that labeling on it, or if the seller can somehow prove it has sound by powering it up, I would be very careful doing that. Because yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about that. And the problem with train shows too is that you go one day and then the next day the train show, like some train shows go for 2 days. So maybe if you're lucky and you're dealing with an honest seller, you could go back the next day and return it. But I wouldn't count on that. Are you going to ballast the yard? Eventually, it's just there's so many different things that I intend to add on the layout. I don't want to ballast too much stuff and then discover that I need to rip up the ballast I've laid down because things need to be changed. Adding ballast is kind of like, I don't know, agreeing to a piece of track being somewhat permanent. Haven't joined a live stream in a few weeks. Glad to be back. I'm looking for a 3D printer so I can start on kit bashing. When I start my layout, any recommendation on any good ones that are under $5,000? I got the Crealty K1, and it's been decent. And I'll be completely honest, I'm not an expert on 3D printing. I haven't done a ton of it. What I like about it is that there's a lot of settings, and you can control the print speed and stuff, so I have had some success there. But I think for the 3D printing question, I leave that question to everybody in here. Anybody who's got some experience 3D printing, put your suggestions in the chat, because I'm sure there are some other ones out there. And DB Tech says you can get a good 3D printer for around $300. I mean, if you have a budget of $5,000, I imagine you could buy a pretty nice looking machine. You need more wall art. I'm sure it will get there somehow. You put up those posters that everybody has of locomotives of the world, or whatever it was called. And David from DB Tech says Crealty, Bamboo, Eglo, they're all good. PNWR says Bamboo Labs are great. Do you have any recommendations for a transition car for an American EMD 40 by Bachmann? I'm British. I only have 00 rolling stock. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Is the question to get a car that you can use with both British and American couplers? Because I think if that's the case, all you need to do is buy any NEM car with the couplers that you can remove, and then you can buy an NEM coupler, because NEM, I think, is basically the European equivalent to, in North America, we have the NMRA. So I think that's the equivalent. So I think if you get an NEM car, you can put a knuckle coupler on it. Is your layout DC or DCC? It's kind of a hybrid. The way it works is that both circuits are wired independently. Now I can run both circuits off one of the same power supplies. So if I set this switch to the same, it runs off one of these two. This one being DCC, the other being DC. But I can also run the outside circuit on DCC while running the inside circuit on this DC controller. So it just kind of helps, because I do have some DCC equipment, but a lot of my stuff runs on DC power, and it's just ideal to be running things on the power they're intended for. Our single train show has a huge amount of stuff. Munchie in Western Delaware Country Fairgrounds. Maybe you can come next year. What's your favorite heritage unit? It's a good question. Probably one of the New York Transit P32s. I'm very tempted to buy one from Rapido. SMT, I'm building my own layout. Well, congratulations. That's always a fun thing to start. Holy crap! $100 super chat. Layout is looking very good. A little to help you. Always an absolute pleasure to find your videos. Poster live. Best wishes from Germany. Well, thank you so much again, Der Deutsch Professor. That's incredibly generous. I'll probably go towards the expansion into the yard over here. I already have some of the parts for that, but it will definitely help. So yeah, much appreciated. Insanely generous. SMT, stay far away from Bamboo Labs. Too many rights of ownership issues with their stuff. Huh. I've never, I mean, again, I've got Crealty, so I'm not biased one way or another, but it's good to know that stuff. I have shared a few designs on Thingiverse, though. I think that that's an amazing site. Hey, SMT, can you run a little train that you repaired, the green one, on the inside loop, hopefully? Yeah, I definitely think we could do that. Here's the little bugger. Doesn't seem to want to start. I think the motor might be locked in place for some reason. Let me try something here. Let's rotate it over. Scott, I'm sorry, I want to pronounce this right. Scott Thubber? I hope I'm getting that right. Let me know if I'm not. But thank you so much for the very generous $50 super chat. Really do appreciate it. There's no message attached, but yeah, thanks a bunch. I don't get what's going on. When will you do that yard? Probably within the next couple weeks. I think it's going to be the next video. That or some layout construction. I don't know. I'm not sure if I should build that or construct a bridge there. I bet you $50 you're too scared to get a triplex. Scared is one word. Having more than $50 to buy one is another. Although I got that super chat, so maybe that will be the triplex fund. Okay, let's see if that will get it to start. I have to put on Jumpstart My Heart, get this thing turning over. And another $50 super chat from the Okay, the name is all split up here. From the Great Railroad Productions. Thank you very much. It's got some figure dancing around some buildings. Never seen that sticker before, but yeah. That's just wild. Three super chats like that. Generosity knows no bounds. I'm hoping this thing isn't seized in place, because otherwise we might be about to witness some catastrophic motor failure. Is there any temperature that you recommend soldering a little DCC decoder wires? I've had one detached from my Intercity 125. A lot of people when I was soldering were recommending 400 degrees. I don't know if for a circuit board if that would be too high. It probably is. I'm not sure. I don't really work with temperatures. I just solder stuff until it melts and floods out nicely, and then I stop there. Provided there's not anything, like if you're soldering directly to the board, you might have to be careful about overheating it. But if you're just soldering the wires, I wouldn't be too worried. What is going on? I wonder if we lost the coil. Use flux, absolutely. And Canadian Locomotives Logistics suggests 330 degrees for normal solder. Afternoon SMT, what is your favorite locomotive that you have other than the Hiawatha? Can you run it, please? Favorite locomotive other than the Hiawatha? That's a good question. Probably the number 6060 Canadian National. Thank you so much to Kyle McSweeney for joining the Well Folks Club. I'm going to give this thing more voltage. We'll see if we can get it moving again. Yeah, I'm going to say we lost a coil on this. Momentarily, the motor spins and then it stops again. Could be bad brushes, but this thing did not sound great when I made that video, so I don't know if maybe one of the coils was shorted and it finally went bad. Yeah. Oh, it's not running very well. That's for sure. I think it's running on 2 coils right now. Are the videos about building a layout on a short budget still coming? Yeah, I still intend on making those. I have all the materials now. The only reason I haven't is because I wasn't expecting to move so quickly, and so because of that, the priority has just been trying to get this layout going. But I haven't given up on that. It's still something that I'm intent on doing. And if the next video is not working on the layout, I suspect it's actually going to be how to resurrect a train set. So it's not going to be building an entire layout on a budget, but there is going to be advice in that video about how to revive a train set, which would have a lot of the same cost-saving measures. Do you think it would be beneficial to replace the plastic wheels on my rolling stock with metal ones? The short answer to that is yes. Metal wheels, they roll with less resistance, and they also don't leave any residue on your track, so those are both benefits. Whether or not it's worth it is another story. If it's equipment that you really like and you're working with it a lot, running it a lot, I would probably go ahead and spend the money. But if it's just a car that you run every so often for a gag, um, I wouldn't bother. There's some cars I have. I only use them every once in a while, and I've just left the plastic wheels on because it's just not worth investing that much money for something that you're only using every once in a while. Do you have any Pere Marquette stuff? I don't know if I do. I mean, I have the Polar Express, which is technically Pere Marquette 1225, but that's about it. SMT, I have a question. I have a old 040 Varney Dockside B&O switcher, and the motor and the contacts are not the problem. I'm wondering if it's shorting out. Everything else is working. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're putting the engine on the track, and you've checked the motor and the contacts, and on their own they work. So yeah, if you've ruled that out, it's one of two things. Either, to your point, it could have a short circuit, which could be caused by any number of things. It's kind of hard to say what the short would be caused by without actually seeing it. But it could also be a case where it's just not picking up power. Because, I mean, just because the contacts in the motor are working, it doesn't mean that it's getting power at the wheels. So I would check that. Chris and Shy, welcome. You have a favorite era of trains? Not really. Just like my collection, it's a real variety. Some of this stuff would date back to, I don't know, the late 1800s, and the rest of it is all the way to present. If you ever come to the state of Kentucky, make sure to check out the Kentucky Railway Museum. I went there on my birthday, got some really cool trains. Yeah, it'd be cool to check that place out. I did go to the Greater Railway Museum of Cincinnati, which is in Kentucky, just on the border between Kentucky and Ohio. That was pretty cool. It wasn't a very big place, but I really enjoyed visiting there. SMT, do you have any advice to replace or make a semi-permanent solution for a missing commutator spring? I don't know what size for an older locomotive. Commutator spring. Well, if you're just looking for springs, I don't know what kind you would need because, there are different sizes, but sometimes you can buy these generic boxes of springs off Amazon, really small ones, and you can use those. Or you can buy slot car springs and see if one of those works. Are you planning on viewing the Big Boy when it comes this way east? I was talking about that earlier. I'm not close to the idea, but unfortunately, the closest it's coming to me is about 5 hours away, so I don't know. I also have no doubt that the traffic and the crowds around that thing are going to be insane. If you're ever in Southwest Michigan or North Central Indiana, check out Hudson Steam Museum. My channel has a few videos on it. Good to know. You mentioned Canadian National 6060. I've got an update about her. They're getting close to getting her back and running again. It's about to be great to see her run under her own power. Yeah, that would be great. I don't think they've run that engine since 2012, if I'm not mistaken. What's your next project on the layout going to be? Probably adding the locomotive staging area. I want to have kind of what's going to basically be a parking lot for a lot of larger engines. So probably have like maybe 5 rows of tracks all lined up there. And then the industrial buildings and stuff are just going to kind of sit around there. SMT, do you know what I can use as gears for a first generation lifelike Varney locomotive? Not really, to be honest. I mean, those are not very uncommon, so you could probably find a donor locomotive, but that's about it. I'm not aware of any gears that fit those locomotives. SMT, I've watched your eBay videos, and the Trix helped me get a good deal on a K4 locomotive. Thank you for all you do. Well, that's great to hear. I do try to share what I can. Are you going to be working on the layout tonight, and when will the Hershey factory be joining the layout? As for working on the layout, probably not. I've already done some work on it today. I might be doing that in the next video, though. We'll see. As for the Hershey factory, I don't have any clue when I'm going to be adding that onto this layout. So, yeah, I don't know. There's something I should probably mention about that. Gary M., thank you so much for joining the Well Folks Club for 13 months. I appreciate it. Yeah, so the Hershey factory, one of the guys who has a kind of like a group of like all the people who used to work at that factory, he reached out to me about a month ago, and he was saying that they're going to be doing, I guess, a get-together with all the workers from there next year, and he was asking if I could actually bring the model all the way up to Smith Falls. And I'm certainly on board with doing that, because, I mean, first of all, it'd be quite an honor to actually meet the people that worked at this place. But what I don't want to do is bring the model here, then have to bring it back out of the basement in order to get it there. So I suspect I'm not going to move the factory for about a year, but we'll see. A bit of a derailment over here. Do you have any Meccano Hornby 00 trains? If so, would you be willing to run them? I don't think I do, to be honest. I had some Hornby triple rail stuff, which I was using a while back, but fortunately doesn't work on my layout. Will your layout look the same as the original, or will you have some new improvements? It's going to look quite a bit different than the original on this side. I mean, first of all, it's already being built backwards from what it was before, but I mean, this is also before I've added on what I intend to build around the edges of it, so it's going to have a lot of the original aspects, but laid out much differently. If you're ever in Connecticut, go to the Danbury Rail Museum. They have a huge collection. I love your videos. I watch them every night before I go to bed. been a dream for me to be a member. I love everything you do for the community. That's a very thoughtful comment. I really appreciate hearing that. It does mean a lot, the support, in terms of making these videos. Because I don't know, I do these repairs and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, do people find this interesting or not? I'm always surprised. Sometimes I make a video and I'm like, oh, okay, I think this is an exciting one, and it's kind of like, okay. And then there's another video where I'm a little less sure, and then the feedback's positive, so I'm like, okay. Good. You should try converting one of your trying 3-rail locomotives to 2-rail. I've done it on some older Sir Nigel Greasley, and it runs pretty well considering the age. Well, at least the motor is already DC, so that's part of the equation taken care of. I guess it would just be a matter of figuring out how to isolate the wheels correctly. Welcome to the live stream, David. Do you still have your tea kettle? Yeah. Just got to figure out what's going on with the Dreyfuss Hudson there. It seems to have stopped. Plus, I said it was going to run the 6060, so maybe I'll throw that on instead. We have a track view. Also, what's your opinion of TCS Wow Sound? What did you call your model railroad years ago? I called my railroad Dunderville. As for Wow Sound, I don't have any opinions on it. I haven't worked with it enough to say. And for a trackside view, yeah, I can definitely set this up a little bit lower. See if I can get the Hudson to do a bit of a pass by here. I think that should look half decent. How's that? Bachmann released a newer Dreyfuss Hudson. Well, it's good to know. I probably won't be the first to buy one, but I guess that's available. It's weird that same car just derailed again. I wonder why that's happening. You watch Heiss. Not super often. Nothing against his content. I don't know. A lot of the content I watch is usually about automotive stuff, but I like his videos. Definitely knows a lot about real trains. My papa bought me 4 1960s locomotives for $10. Now you've got me inspired to make a layout. It's O-gauge and I don't have any equipment and rolling stock. Track writes nothing. Any tips for a starter? I would probably see if it's all O-scale stuff. See if you can just buy yourself a lot of old tube track. That stuff's usually a dime a dozen. And you can buy it in really poor shape. Like you can buy it all rusty. Because you can just throw it all in a tub of vinegar and it will remove all the rust. And then you just neutralize that by putting it in water with some baking soda. Maybe coat it with some sort of an oil after just so it doesn't rust, and then use that. But yeah, 4 1960s engines for $10, that's a pretty good deal. Especially if they're Lionel or American Flyer. Even if they're not running, I have a feeling you'd probably be able to get those moving again. Those things are built like tanks. Opinion on AHM. Their house-made locomotives, I believe, were actually made by Mahano, and those are decent. As for the rest of them, I think they were made by Rivarossi. Those were also good. So yeah, overall, AHM had some good stuff, but almost everything they sold was rebadged. So like if you buy a Big Boy locomotive from the 80s, it says AHM on the packaging, but it's actually a Rivarossi. Did you ever end up fixing the Intercity 125 you got from the new unboxing video? Nope, that one's still on the dock, but I do have one in somewhat working order. I have Lionel Fast Track, and they run pretty rough, although they're fast. They're Mark's locomotives. The 999, the Commodore, the Vanderbilt, the Maryline steam locomotive, and one other. Well, I didn't mention Marks, but yeah, those are well-made engines. I find the looks of some of the Marks O-scale stuff, some of them are a little more realistic than others. The diesels, the tin plate diesels, are a little unusual in my opinion, but definitely well-made. I got a whole lot of Lionel stuff, but it had two Marks engines, and they hadn't been run since 1969. So about, 55 years, and put them on the track. They fired right up, no questions asked. 6060 looking good, yeah. See if we can get a bit of a street side view of it. What's the best decoder to buy? I can't remember the exact model. I have the packaging around here. I could show you the one I usually use. My Casey Jones showed up in AHM packaging, and it turned out to be a Rivarossi. I'm not surprised. Are you thinking about opening up an eBay shop? Probably not anytime soon. I don't know. I've never run an eBay store myself. I have done a lot of sales through Facebook Marketplace, and I'm not done with it. I get the benefits of it, but I don't know. Dealing with people on Facebook is a nightmare. I imagine eBay is similar. Can you please run your daylight special? It's my dream train. I can definitely throw the 4449 on. eBay's worse. Funny thing about AHM, they also marked O-scale in the 70s. They used the same oddball hook couplers that Rivarossi and Lima used for their European UK rolling stock of the same era. I've seen a few of those. They are very strange looking. I guess they decided just to scale them up, because if I'm not mistaken, the O-scale stuff AHM was selling was 2-rail O-scale, which is not super common. So I guess instead of coming up with a completely new design, they just took their HO lineup and expanded it. Have you ever modified any brass models for clients, like adding lights, painting, fixing broken decals? I never have. I'm not very skilled with painting. I mean, I don't know. I've got some projects like the Canadiana that I'm happy with the results on, but no, there's never been anything too intricate I've done in that regard. I'm more of like a repair guy. I like taking apart something that hasn't run in 50 years and seeing if I can get it moving or get it moving under its own power. I always used to make fun of eBay until I started buying trains off eBay. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not sure what it is, but a lot of the steam engines that came out of Montreal Locomotive Works were beautiful. That includes both Canadian Pacific and Canadian National engines. They really had that special touch when it came to designing them. I tend to agree. I mean, some of Canada's best engines were made there. I find it kind of interesting, too, that some of the locomotives that rolled out of Montreal and ended up working on the west side of the country, you know, out in like the prairie provinces or out in the Rockies, ended back up here. You know, the Selkirk that was made in Montreal is now being stored at Montreal. I know there's still one out in Alberta, but I don't know. It's one of those full circle things. I got ripped off by somebody on eBay. I purchased a train, and they marked it as HO, but it was actually an O-gauge train, and now it sits and collects dust because I can't run it. Well, depending on the model, they might have kind of ripped themselves off in a way, because I find that most of the time O-scale stuff is worth more than HO. It's not always the case, but generally, especially for shipping. What do you think of Lionel HO scale engines? Well, it depends what era. The older ones from the 1950s are pretty good. A lot of them are actually Rivarossis, and even some of the ones from the 70s, like the ones that were made in Michigan, those are quite decent. You know, they were train set engines, but they weren't bad. All the 80s, late 70s, early 80s stuff made by Kadar is junk in my opinion. It's basically, you know, Bachmann stuff. Exact same tooling as a lot of the Bachmann engines. I would avoid that. As for their current HO range, it's okay. A lot of it is just old tooling that they've reused. It's way overpriced, that's for sure. Hey, SMT from northeastern PA. I hope all is well in Canada. How's your weather? I've been looking forward to the 4014 Big Boy coming up here for the 250th anniversary of America. That will be exciting. Yeah, as for things here, the weather's been warm. It's finally gotten hot outside. Yesterday it was about 30 degrees, which is roughly in the 90s. So pretty happy about that. It's a little bit colder today, but yeah, I love the warm weather. I'm not a winter guy, which for somebody who lives in Canada is not great, but yeah, really happy to see the snow going away. Really happy to see the trees starting to bud and so on. It's going right past my house. Well, that's quite a fortunate thing. Set up a chair in the backyard and not have to fight with all the crowds. And Angel's posting a whole bunch of different train emojis from the members thing. I think Lionel is better in the O-scale models. I tend to agree with that. I mean, it's always what they've been into, and I think the fact that Lionel seems to just keep jumping in and out of the HO industry kind of says something about it. I think they just see all the money being made in HO, and they want to cut themselves a slice of the pie, but they kind of half-ass it, and they just you know, reuse old tooling instead of making new models and stuff like that. And so I just don't think it builds that excitement. Whereas O-scale is a little bit more niche in a way. Like there aren't as many O-scale manufacturers, so I think they can kind of, you know, cater to their audience a little bit better. Do you have a railroad near your new house? Unfortunately, not. There's not a whole lot of rail activity in this part of the city, so yeah, not much to see. I wish there was. I wish I lived by one of those lines that like runs right through your backyard, but only like once a week. That would be fun. I'm honestly very happy that the remnants of the old Toronto rail lands have been preserved, especially the John Street Roundhouse, repurchased into a museum, steam whistle brewery, and even a rec room. Well, it's going to be a fitting thing for steam whistle. When I think of Lionel, I think of O scale, not HO. Lionel should stick to O scale. Yeah, I agree with that. Hello, SMT from Ohio. Union Pacific 4014 will stop here for a short time. I never seen the biggest steam engine. Do you think you'll ever have the same 2 engines as it did for the tour to the West Coast? I have no idea. Do you still have the main central engine in green made by Stewart? I still have that engine. I don't think I've brought it over from my parents' place yet, though. AHMO scale was 2-rail. Their flanges weren't as small as modern 2-rail O, so they could potentially operate on a 3rd-rail track. AHM also made conversion knuckle couplers compatible with Lionel. You know what? Not bad stuff. Like, good on AHM for that. Do you have any steam engines running near you in Canada? The only one I can think of is possibly the Shay at the Museum of Science and Technology, but I don't even know if they run that anymore. When I was a kid, there were 2. We had the Shay at Science and Tech, and we also had the HCW Swedish E2 steam engine. But yeah, the Hull Chelsea Wakefield Railway is defunct. They don't run stuff anymore. And yeah, I don't know if the Shay's boiler certification expired, but I haven't seen that operate in a long time. If you could bring back an extinct locomotive, which one would it be? The original Hiawatha. Harrison, have you ever been to Chicago? The reason I'm asking is so I can go to Arkansas. But it's a maybe. I'm going to probably have to move to a new apartment. I don't know if it's going to happen. To answer your question, I've been through Chicago Airport, so technically I've been to Chicago, but I don't really consider going through an airport actually visiting a city, so I haven't actually seen it, you know, been on the streets and experienced it, so I would like to go there one day. You run the Santa Fe P32? Yeah, sure. I'll put some of the freight cars in the yard and we'll actually try to run it with this thing. Hopefully it will work a little bit better. Last time there were some derailing issues. You also run the Big Boy. I'll run that after this. I'm going to try running this the other direction, see if that helps. I have a question. Are you a fan of Star Wars? I am. I'm not like a diehard fan. I really like the first movie. That's kind of it. I haven't seen Star Wars in a while. My family used to have it on VHS. That's how I saw it for the first time. When are we getting a layout build video? Well, I'm going to be doing some work on this layout pretty soon, so that's probably going to be within the next couple weeks. As for building an entirely new layout, like as part of the 4x8 or 4x6 build series, I don't know yet. It really depends how fast I get this done. What's the town name? Dunderville. Does your new house have an attic? That would be a nice spot for a layout in the future. I mean, it has an attic, but like you could only crawl around up there. It's one of those older houses where the roof is not very. It doesn't have much of a pitch to it. I also don't really. I don't know. I went up into the attic very briefly because I just wanted to kind of check things out and make sure there weren't any signs of leaks. But there's a lot of fiberglass, but the fiberglass is really thick, and so I'm nervous there could be asbestos under there, and I'm not going to go digging for it, so I think I'm just going to leave that area be. But as for expansion, I've still got a lot of room right here. I mean, I've got this entire other space over there, so I mean, this is one part, but there's a lot of opportunity, that's for sure. Boy, that derailed. Good call. The basement's more convenient. Well, one thing that I really like about the basement too is that during the summer months, it's going to remain nice and cold down here. So the other day when it got really hot outside, I was pretty happy working down here. Do you think a decoder will work in a Rivarossi Big Boy that you just did a video on? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that would probably be quite an easy conversion because there's quite a bit of room in the shell, and there's only, two really direct wires running to the motor. It's not grounded or anything like it is on the older models. So, yeah, I could probably add that quite easily if I really wanted to. Would you be interested in starting your own business for model train repairs? I'm sure you'd get a lot of business. It wasn't a business because I wasn't charging people, but for a while I was repairing trains for people, and they could ship them in, and I would, get the work done and so on. And it was working okay for a frame of time, and then I started having a lot of issues where, people were sending in their stuff to get repaired without a return address, and because whenever a box shows up, I always rip all the addresses off of it, I wouldn't know where to mail it back to. So that started becoming a problem. And then there was also a lot of fees because people were referring to sending their trains as repair work. So I was getting dinged every time I went to the P.O. box to pick stuff up. And then the other thing I was just a bit concerned about is if something goes really haywire with the repair, it's not my equipment. It's very rare. I've actually screwed up an engine so bad I wasn't able to fix it. I think the only exception was this one time where I was working on an N-scale engine and I accidentally overheated. I was trying to solder something onto the commutator and I overheated it and it melted. So it's not a very common occurrence, but still, it's like with my own engine, that's no problem. If I was working on somebody else's engine, I don't know what I would do about that. Anyway, I think we'll go ahead and try to run the big boy here. Have you ever heard of Canadian Pacific 2816? I sure have. I had a Trix Big Boy growing up in HO scale, sold it way back. Do you have Trix equipment SMT? Got a couple Trix engines. Some of them are Actually, my grandmother's and are part of the original Trix Twin Railway. As for the Trix Big Boy, though, I bought a train set. It's supposed to be the Trix American set, which has both a Big Boy and a Santa Fe Super Chief, but it runs on 3-rail AC, so I'm really excited to, at some point, unbox that train set and test it out. I got a really good deal. Usually those sets go for $3,000 to $6,000, and I managed to find one for $800. So if I can get it working, it's going to be quite the score. All right, let's see if the Big Boy will rally for us. I don't think power is getting to that section of the track, probably because I was ballasting around this switch earlier. So, if I mess around with that, is it gonna... Nope, nothing. Oh, wait a minute, it's because I was running it on DCC, huh? There we go. Something sounds a bit derailed. This is the back wheel on the Big Boy. There we go. How many of your grandmother's engines have you repaired? I've fixed 3 of them. Got both her Atlantics running and one of the Trix engines. The rest of them are going to need some really creative repairs, that's for sure. Hope the Santa Fe engine doesn't hit that. Good. It's really weird that the same song that I finished off the Big Boy video in just came on right as I started running this thing. That's some funny timing there. Harrison, how do you combat humidity in your basement in the summertime? I've always had issues with that too. Well, I'm going to have to figure it out here because I don't know if this house has humidity problems in the basement. My parents' place wasn't too bad for that. It was more thermal expansion that affected the layout. But yeah, I'll have to see this summer if there's any humidity issues down here. And if there is, I guess I'll just buy a dehumidifier. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this place handles the summer months. You know, I got it through winter. This house was pretty cold during the winter. It's not well insulated, so that was a little bit of a struggle on really cold days. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see on the flip side on really hot days how it holds up. Just buy a dehumidifier. You won't regret it. It's probably what I'll have to end up doing. I do have one here. It looks like it's from 1985. I have no idea if it works or not, but I guess I could try that before I go sinking money into one. Have you ever heard of the wreck of the Red Arrow? I can't say I have. I think the tender on the Big Boy might be derailed again. I'm looking to buy a Union Pacific Big Boy. Is there any ballpark for price range? What do you think I should look out for? Try to find one of the newer River Rossi ones, usually the ones with the silver boiler caps, or the silver front of the boiler like this one, or the more modern era. Just be careful, the older River Rossi ones, it's an engine with a lot of moving parts, so that just kind of can lend itself to having problems. But other than that, they're fairly good. In terms of price range, I would say expect to pay somewhere over $300 for a really good one. So you can buy ones in, junk condition like this one for about 150 US, which, it's not too bad, but to get one that's actually like in good working order and with DCC, you're probably going to at least spend 300. How often does track need to get cleaned for oxidization? None of my tracks have oxidized yet for future reference. If you're using modern nickel silver instead of brass, not very often. Oxidization, unless you have a really humid environment, is not too much of a problem. It's more just grime. As the engines run around, they make little sparks, and there's this buildup like dust and stuff gets kind of ground up, and it starts to sort of burn, and you get this black kind of tar coating on your track. So that's what you need to look out for. So if you're running your trains often, you're going to be cleaning your track once a month. But usually that's enough. Just pray to the train gods that there's no moisture. Yeah, moisture is the bane of any electronic thing, its existence. The electronics and water, they just don't like each other. Is 270 for a River Rossi Challenger a good price? If it's in perfect condition, like it's running properly and everything, I would say that's pretty good. If it's not in working condition, I'd avoid it. Do they make HO scale locomotives that can automatically clean the track as it moves along? Yeah, they do. Some of them even have like a buffer that goes on the bottom. Personally, I've never really liked that stuff. I find it's kind of gimmicky. Like, I feel like it's the kind of thing you buy thinking, hey, it's going to take care of my layout. Because I've had a few track cleaning cars and they've never made much of a difference. It's nothing better than actually just cleaning it yourself. But they are out there. I know a few people who claim that they save a lot of time doing that. Okay, I've just noticed a really weird problem with one of my older intermodal cars. I'm not sure if you can see this on this side, but it's like arcing on the track. I'll see if it makes it back around, and if it does, I'll show you what's going on right here. Very odd problem. Is Yankee Dabber a good place to buy trains from? I've never heard of that store. I learned from you how to clean tracks properly, and ever since then, I've been cleaning and running trains. To be honest, you're doing God's work with the info on teaching HO scale. Well, it means a lot to hear that. Yeah, honestly, clean your track, clean your wheels. Those are probably the two key ingredients to having something that works well. I mean, obviously, oiling everything and cleaning the insides, like the motor, help a lot, but dirty track and dirty wheels, I think, probably make the biggest difference in terms of performance. So, yeah, it's this car right here. Yeah, as this was going by, I saw it sparking on the track, which is weird because this is plastic, but look at this. Metal weight had become detached. Whatever adhesives were holding this on. So this It's just been dragging on the rails for goodness knows how long. That's cool. Do you think you could add some cars to make a more realistically long consist? I could throw the... actually, I don't know. I don't want to mix those cars. I was going to throw the coal cars behind this, but I don't know. What are your favorite 250 paint schemes? Norfolk Southern, BNSF, Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, Union Pacific, Amtrak, or IORY? I think my favorite 250 paint scheme has to go to BNSF, which is really impressive because as much as I like BNSF, they usually are really bad about heritage units. Like I remember years ago they came out with a heritage unit, which was basically just a bunch of stickers on the side of an engine. Not a very good design. But with the 250 locomotive, I think that they actually did a really good job. I think my second favorite would probably be the Canadian National ones. I think that CN did a very good job. So, yeah, those two railroads, I think, would be my first pick. CSX is falling behind for once on their heritage. I can't tell if that's serious or a joke. So I know CSX is always making the rail fan community angry because they always, they paint the back end of the engine whatever heritage scheme they want, and then they leave the front end just the regular CSX locomotive. And every time they do this, everybody gets lit up. Thoughts on the Norfolk Southern 250 engine? To tell you the truth, I don't know if I've seen any pictures of the Norfolk Southern 250 engine. I've seen Canadian Pacifics, I've seen CNs, as I mentioned, BNSFs, Union Pacifics. I think I saw the one for Amtrak, but I'm not sure if I saw that one yet. I've seen the Norfolk Southern ones, they look really well. I don't know, I'm kind of curious. SMT, have you ever thought of using automatic transmission fluid for your tracks? I've used it for years and never had to clean them. Continuity is great, no buildup. Never thought of it, to be honest with you. Is ATF conductive? I have heard of people using ATF on older brass locomotives to lubricate the gearboxes. I know that Darth Santa Fe does that, but yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of it being used as a track cleaner. I guess it would make sense from a cleaning standpoint because ATF has a lot of cleaning additives in it. But I'd just be curious to see if how it works electrically. It's a real misconception. A lot of people add dielectric grease to their tracks. Something I found out a few years ago from an older mechanic is that dielectric grease is not conductive. People add it to contacts and things like that because they think that dielectric is supposed to be electrically conductive. It's not. It's supposed to be used on the insulators of spark plugs. It was made so that they wouldn't stick. But I think because they were used on spark plugs, that kind of made the impression that dielectric stood for better continuity. Will Florida East Coast cook? I don't know. I mean, some of Florida East Coast engines already look like they could be America 250 because they already have all the bacon stripes and stars on them. So if there was a railroad that was already on the right track, I guess it would probably be them. Well, looks like we got a super chat. Sean H513. Thank you so much for the super chat of $10 there, Sean. I don't see any message attached, but it's appreciated. What has been your experience with the Bachmann 484 steam locomotives? I just picked one up. Plus track for $80 at a local thrift shop. It depends on the era. If it's a newer one, like kind of 90s and up, they're okay. The older ones are not so good. But for $80, that's a pretty good deal, so I wouldn't worry about it. The only thing I've had a problem with, and this is regardless, well, it's actually more of a problem with the new one, is the flanges are a little bit too shallow, and so they have derailing issues, but other than that, they're fine. I want to chase the big boy up the Lehigh Gorge. When it does its excursion, can you believe the ticket to ride the big boy is $2,500 to start? I'm honestly surprised it's not higher. It's a lot of money, but I don't know, for a trip like that, I imagine they'd want good money. Is the mountain layout connected? Not by track, but I did run some wires to it, so trains can operate on the figure 8. Was it common for them to come with smoke units? I don't know. I've had some Bachmann engines from the 80s that had smoke units, but not all of them. I don't know how often they added those. You run some kind of switcher. Yeah, I could probably throw something on the inside loop. Wonder if this will work. Yeah, it's too light. Try this one. Using ATF on your track can mess up traction tires you run. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if it was ATF, but a few years ago at the train club, there was this guy applying something to the track, and he claimed it was going to make the layout work better than it ever did before. And the trains were not running worse, but unfortunately, I ran my Swedish E2 locomotive, which has traction tires through that, and it did just that. It screwed up the traction. So the engine still runs fine, but I kind of wish I hadn't done that. And this thing's having a bit of trouble in warm-up. Yeah, we got it. I found a really good deal on Bachmann's website. They have an HO scale Southern Pacific Daylight with lit up coaches and a 3-pack for $70 in their warehouse finds. Well, for a locomotive and 3 cars, that is an amazing deal, but I'd be curious to see what the engine's like, because I don't know, if it's a warehouse deal, it probably means that somebody's returned it, and if they've returned it, probably also means they did something bad. So if you bought that engine and it works, good for you. That's a lucky deal. But I bought a Bachmann GS4 from Amazon warehouse, and it was junk. What's the best way to store HO scale equipment? I don't really have a lot of shelf space. Thanks for your great content. A lot of people buy those not Tupperware containers, but those little shelf containers. They put like foam padding down and put the engines in there, sometimes laid on their side. Personally, I just throw them on the shelf. Now, if you've mentioned that you don't have a lot of shelf space, some containers are probably a good choice. You can also get these ones on eBay where it's like a divider. It's like a bunch of little slots, almost like for the Hot Wheels cars, and you put all your engines in there. So that's another option. A lot of people, especially who are part of train clubs, just when they're done using an engine, throw it back in its original box. Personally, I like to have them all laid out and be able to look at them all the time, but that's another option too if you have a few engines. Be right back. Just gonna go grab myself a soda. That's more like it. SMT, I'm a huge fan, and your layout is cool. Can you run a Canadian National? It's my favorite. Yeah, sure. Whoops. I'm drinking a dirty Mountain Dew. What's a dirty Mountain Dew? A spiked one, or if it's a an innuendo. I can't even speak English. If it's an innuendo for something, don't share it. If it's not drink related. Foam often has problems with oil and grease and other plastics. A Mountain Dew with dirt. It's a new flavor. Cream flavored Mountain Dew. I don't know if that sounds better. Do you have a Dash 8, aka a top hat? I don't think I do. When are you going to do another eBay video? In terms of eBay unboxings, there's about 1 billion coming down the line. In terms of like one of those videos where I go on eBay and look for lots, I'm not sure. See if I can find a Canadian National Dash 9. Although I guess I could just run this the other way around, maybe on the inside loop. Do you still have the DD40? Yeah. Harrison, what Oldsmobile do you have? I grew up with them. My first drives. Nice. Yeah, I've got a 79 Regency 98. Thing is an absolute boat. What's your favorite era of locomotives to work and run? I want to say in terms of reliability, let's go 90s era Athearn for reliability. In terms of stuff that's really cool to work on, 50s all the way. Your older like Varney engines, Penline engines of that era. The 50s stuff is just everything is all it's held together by bolts. You know, there's not a lot of clips, which I like, and some of it's all metal, like if it's die cast. So yeah, I really like that era. The Regency 98 came with its own postal code. Yeah, pretty much. Dirty Soda is a chain out of Utah that specializes in dirty soda. I like your bridges SMT. I've been working on a giant 12 arch concrete viaduct style bridge on a local club layout. I'm sure that would look pretty impressive. I don't feel like too many people are building viaducts either, so it's kind of a unique addition. I've been working on an HO scale layout, but I didn't get very far. I switched to N scale, and now I'm doing better with DCC and sound. Are modern Athearns still good quality? Is the Athearn the most reliable locomotive ever made? Not sure if a modern Athearn would be as good as a modern Kato. I think the exception would be those little Kato drives, which have a motor the size of a pinky. Those are not very, I think, well kitted out to last a long time. But the regular Kato engines with a full-size drive, I feel like those might outlast modern Athearns. In terms of Athearn still making a good product, I think that they do. A lot of the design is based on the blue box engines, which have a very good reputation. But the only thing is that the blue box engines were very simple. They didn't have decoders or anything. Like, they were just straightforward locomotives. So a lot of the newer Athearns have circuit boards and stuff. And so I think that that might be a bit of a problem. I also believe some of the modern Athearn engines have a nylon worm gear wrapped around metal. And so I could see those cracking over time. What's the best beginner DCC system? You could get a Bachmann Easy command. Those are like the original Easy commands are pretty user friendly. I had one for years. But if you're going to invest in a DCC system, I'd probably just go out and just buy a full scale one. And so maybe get like a DCS 52. I know there are also some NCE systems out there. A lot of guys like those. I did do a poll though, and Digitrax destroyed NCE. It was crazy. It pushed them out of the water. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just a more popular choice or if one is actually better than the other. They destroyed NCE. That was, I mean, again, it was just a poll. It was completely unbiased, and I was expecting NCE and Digitrax to be neck on neck, because every time I bring this up, I find the people in the comments, there's a lot of people fighting hard for NCE, and there's a lot of people fighting hard for Digitrax. So I thought, okay, it's got to be one of those like 50-50 Coca-Cola versus Pepsi kind of situations. But that was not the result, so I don't know what to say. What is the most reliable brand? Well, it's probably Kato. Have you considered starting your layout all over again, not as an island in the middle of the room, but something around the walls of the room, leaving the middle open? Probably not. I just don't see the appeal to that myself. I get from like a realistic standpoint, you could build something, you know, a lot more common. A lot of club layouts are built that way, and also, you know, it's kind of the choice for a lot of model railroaders out there. But personally, it doesn't have much appeal to me. I am planning on building a perimeter, so I'm gonna have something like that. But I don't know. To me, it would just be weird having all this empty space in the middle. Digitrax is the GOAT. Apparently. My neighbor has $10,000 worth of HO scale stuff sitting in a box. I wish he would use them. Well, I mean, if he doesn't have any intentions to, maybe you can make him an offer on it. I once had somebody contact me, and they were like, hey, SMT, my neighbor gave me some model trains. I don't know a whole lot about model railroading, but can you tell me if it's any good? They sent me pictures, and it was almost all brass stuff. It's almost all brass, and it was in these beautiful boxes. And it had to have been at least $5,000 worth of stuff. And I was like, well, you've got to have some awfully generous neighbors just to be giving things away. Unless, of course, maybe the neighbor didn't know either. I don't know. Sometimes people inherit this stuff. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised. SMT, unless you have plans for your layout, I have an idea. You can make a small, almost port-like area to load all your intermodals. Maybe one of those RC container unloaders. Probably add that somewhere on the perimeter. I don't know. I need to figure out how I want to exactly do that. One thing is for certain, though, and that's that I want to build a giant bridge, which is going to span from here over to some table over there. So I think I'm going to go out to Princess Auto. I'm going to buy some steel, and I'm going to build a custom bridge. I'm going to weld it all together, and it's going to be different from anything I've ever done before. Robert Lacidro, did you see my chats? I'm sorry I haven't spotted any from your account. You plan on bringing the Hershey factory over? It's not impossible, but I was talking about that earlier. I don't have any plans for the near future to do that. Huge bridge is going to look sweet. I hope so. I have something in mind. I'm just not sure how I'm going to put it together yet. What do you use for ballasting, and did you put anything in the glue? The glue I use is pretty much off-brand Elmer's. You can use genuine Elmer's. It will probably work better. But what I do is I lay out my ballast, spread it out over the ties, tap the track to get the ballast to kind of settle. And then after that, I spray it down with either rubbing alcohol or water with a tiny bit of dish soap, really soak it, and then just drizzle the glue over that, and then put another layer of water or rubbing alcohol on top of that so that it sinks in. Because if you don't use anything, what will end up happening is the glue will just sit on the surface of the ballast, and it will just kind of congeal. You'll get these weird lines and things like that. So you have to have something to break the surface tension. What do you think of HO scale garden layouts? I think they're pretty interesting, and I'm honestly considering building one now because I have this area in the backyard, and frankly, it looks pretty bad. There's a lot of old pallets and things like that left over from the previous owner, and this old gardening shed. And so I'm kind of thinking about building some sort of a garden layout that will run from the inside of the shed out into the yard, and then put plants around that, and just kind of make a cool hangout area. Can you run your fastest train at full speed? I wish I could, but if I ran my Shikansen at full speed, it would fly right off the layout. It's that fast. I believe I can fly. The Shinkansella. My grandfather has a G-scale garden layout. We are currently working on the track, and ballast should be ready to run soon. How long have you been in the hobby? Since 2006. So around Christmas of this year, it'll be 20 years. That is scary. I actually have the videos of unboxing my very first train set on Christmas Day. And I'm kind of thinking about making a video where, I don't know, I share some of the footage and sort of the experience. I've been in the hobby since birth. What, your dad was already getting you to run trains? The only issue I have with DCC is the cost of decoders. You can tie up a lot of extra money with all the engines a person has, whereas DC is a little less expensive to use. I agree with that. I mean, really the only benefit I see to DCC is either you want incredibly prototypical operations and you want to have lights that, don't depend on voltage, and you want to have sound and all that kind of stuff. It could be good for that. Or if you want to, do operations and kind of shuffle stuff around with sound, I understand that, like you're working on a club layout. But for just running trains around, I don't find DCC really adds that much. So that's why I use both. It's just kind of a hybrid depending on what I want to use. But yeah, if you just want to run trains, DC works just fine. I would also argue that DC is a lot more reliable because, you don't have a decoder, which can do funny things. DC engines are not as picky about dirty track. Or if you have a momentary short circuit, if you're running DCC and you have a short circuit, oops, whole thing shuts down. You do this on a DC layout and the train stops, and then you remove the short, everything starts working again. Please share Little SMT opening his first train set, some other train related things. I think I probably will. I recently started the HO scale hobby. Ride to an eBay resell fell through. I now have a train set. The thing is, the other hobby of adding LEDs to my diecast cars is taking over my budget. Hey SMT, I'm trying to get into the hobby. What's the best way to get cheap, bulk, and also somewhat reliable trains? Train shows are the obvious answer, but if you just want to kind of get a bunch of stuff to get started, you could go on Facebook Marketplace and see if you can find somebody selling off an entire collection and then just buy it. Because buying a collection, unless you're really paying a lot, is usually cheaper than buying everything individually. So, like, if you buy a collection of stuff from the 70s, if it's $100, if you wanted to go out and buy the engines and track and everything else, it's definitely a lot cheaper. If you go that route, expect you're going to have to put in some effort because used equipment, especially if it's been sitting for a while, sometimes will have problems. So it's not going to be as smooth as just buying a brand new train set and having everything all tickety-boo. But you can save a lot of money that way. That's why I'm planning on making a video about how to fix up a train set that's been sitting, because one of my family friends had a train set. It hasn't run since, I think, the 70s or the 80s. And anyway, he gifted it to me last year. So I'm going to make a video about, my experience getting it running again and just showing all the different ways to deal with problems. I'm currently in Galveston for a band trip, and I saw my first CSX locomotive because I live in Texas. I was so happy to tune in before I got to sleep. Oh, good for you there. You see a lot of CSX engines whenever I'm out in Maine. I guess they're more on the East Coast. What do you think of an advanced railroad crossing for HO scale? I've never worked with one, to be honest. There was a guy about a year ago, and he was developing one himself, and he said he was going to send me a sample. I never received it, so I don't know if that's still happening. But the way his system worked is it used infrared, so it would detect if a train was close instead of using the power in the track. Because some systems you actually have to isolate the track, and it's complicated. So I'd be curious to try something like that out. Do you have any organization for your engines? Not a whole lot at the moment. I kind of put some of my higher end steam locomotives on the top shelf and some of my more prestigious diesels on that shelf right there. But that's about it right now. I need to kind of figure out how I want to organize that. Like if I organize it by the type of engine, or I don't know, whatever I go with. Maybe the railroad. I'll stop the big boy because it keeps derailing, but we can throw something else on. Organization, I try organizing all my roster. All the locomotives are black and white. A Canadian Pacific E8, yeah. I've noticed when I keep my locomotives on shelves, they end up getting dusty pretty quickly. Any tips? Not really. I mean, I have that problem on my own layout, and so every so often I just go over all of them with a really soft paintbrush and just dust them all. I love that Canadian Pacific paint scheme, especially on the F7s and the F9s from the movie Silver Streak. Yeah, I think that's probably what it's most iconic for. We possibly see a 440 run. Yeah, I think so. I have no idea if this thing is going to work. I had to do some repairs on it, but I'll try it out. Well, it's moving. Crap. Use a leaf blower and get the dust off. I'm sure that would work to an extent. You just have to make sure it wasn't too powerful, or else I'm sure it could pull details off. This thing has always had electrical problems. Hey, SMT, I'm a noob to the hobby. Is it better to buy half-working, non-working locomotives and fix them up, or buy brand new? Hold that thought for a second. Yeah, I would say there's not really a right or wrong way. It depends on what you want. If you're just getting into the hobby, I would buy at least one brand new engine, just so you can kind of get a feel for setting an engine up on the track and running it around, just kind of see how something operates. The thing that's nice about buying something that's non-working is, first of all, it's very affordable, and second of all, there's something very satisfying about taking something that's kind of junk and then turning it into something that actually works. But for example, if you were somebody that wanted to have a really realistic layout and you wanted to have, operations and everything works smoothly, buying brand new is definitely helpful just because you're going to have that added reliability. So it just depends on what your goals are, but you could just buy one brand new engine, get a feel for the hobby, and then buy another non-working one, see if you can fix it, and then you can kind of see which way you want to go from there, maybe. It might surprise some people to hear about this because, this channel has a reputation for fixing stuff. But when I was new to the hobby, for probably the first 7 years I was in the hobby, I didn't repair stuff. Every engine I would buy would be brand new. The only exception was I had some of my dad's equipment, but every other engine was brand new. And the reason for that is because, I just believed, if you just buy something that's used or in non-working order, you're just kind of buying somebody else's problems, which sometimes is the case. But um, I don't know. Just later on, I started to realize, well, this used stuff is a lot cheaper. Maybe I should start rolling the dice. And then that's where I really leaned into that. Okay, this thing is starting to bug me a little bit. Usually, once these things start moving, the oxidization that prevents them from running wears off, but this one is not having it. If you're ever in my neck of the woods, please stop in. I'd love to host an operating session with you. Well, I appreciate the offer. What part of Canada are you in? Canadian Locomotive Logistics. I would assume Toronto, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, if this thing stalls, it's going through the wall. I just need to keep intimidating it. It will keep running. London, okay. Hermosa Locomotra. Thank you. The little engine that should. Yeah. Have you considered doing product reviews for new models like JLWYI 2000? I haven't done, the exact same format, but I have done some product reviews on new engines. I'm not as crazy about it, to be honest. I'll really only do them, like, if there's a brand new engine that I really want, I'll do a video of, like, unboxing it and testing it out and kind of saying what I think about it. But I don't know, personally making videos about, like, new releases and just testing them out for the sake of it, it's never been something I've personally wanted to do. And furthermore, there's a lot of channels out there already making those videos, and they do a pretty good job at it. So I just don't really see, I don't know what the reason personally for that would be. Can we see a big diesel later on, maybe an SD40-2? I can probably throw on an AC 4400 or something if you want. SMT, thank you for all that you do. You've gotten me into the hobby about a year ago. I've also begun repairing models with your advice. Great to hear. Still have your grandmother's locomotives. Oh, yeah. That would take the fun out of it. There's already too many channels out there doing product reviews. There's a lot of them, and I don't know. There's some new I think the thing is that, you know, there's like a new release of something that's really niche, and there's a small group of people that really care about that one engine, whatever it is, and they really want to see reviews and stuff for it, but it's pretty limited in who actually cares about it. So I feel like there's a reason that kind of content is not as popular as it once was. What does seem to be becoming really popular, though, is like ASMR videos where somebody, like, they take a box and they slowly cut it open and they fold the sides off and they take out the package and slowly open the engine. There's no talking or anything, and then they set it up on the track. Speaking of other channels, what other model railroading channels do you enjoy watching? I really like Darth Santa Fe, Watch Trains Now, DB Tech. I think he was in here earlier. He's got some pretty good videos on how to do like random repairs and things like that. He's got some good content there. I'm kind of biased because I actually know him in real life, but Eminem Rails has pretty good videos. He incorporates kind of like comedy into his videos, so I really like that. Not a very well-known channel too, so if you haven't seen Eminem Rails, go check him out. Oh, David is still in here. That's cool. I've been watching a little bit of Lauren Ozier's model train videos too. She's been doing some videos going to train shows and stuff. Those are kind of good. What about real train video channels? To tell you the truth, I don't watch a whole lot of rail fanning channels. I watch heists occasionally. That's the main one that comes to mind. Scott Rails. Yeah, Scott Rails has a good channel. I like his stuff. I don't know if everybody wants to put some of their favorite channels, except no self-advertising. I'd be happy to read some out. Jawtooth, Jason. I can't pronounce that last part. World of Trains, Millennium Force are all classics. They're definitely classics. I feel like that. I mean, they're still relevant. They're still making content and stuff. But I feel like that's your, like, I don't know. You want to watch some rail fanning videos because it's 2015 kind of era of YouTube. I remember when I was in Florida, I was doing a video on Zetnik trains, and I guess he's kind of friends, not Jawtooth, Millennium Force is friends with those guys, and he's like, oh, have you seen the annoying orange train reviews? So I looked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, I know this guy. Scott Rails, yeah. Top railroad. I'm not going to say who this was because I'm not looking to spread negativity or anything. But there was this one time I went to a train show and I met this guy, and he was a nice dude, and we had a conversation. He's like, "Yeah, I really like your videos, but the guy I don't like," and he said the guy's name, and then he just went on a complete tangent about him for about 5 minutes, just saying how annoying he was and all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh, glad this guy's on my side." Yeah, that was an odd experience. Sparky's great. Well, Sparky's a legend, especially the earlier days of model railroading YouTube. He's doing those Wednesday night live streams. Those were always a good time. Classic model trains, yep. You still run the Brazilian locomotives, yeah. Everybody has biases about what they like in the hobby. Fortunately, most of us in the hobby are relatively chill. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I find model railroading, I mean, it's like any hobby. There's going to be some people who are a little more unhinged than others. And this guy I met at the train show, I wouldn't even call him unhinged. Because he was perfectly pleasant, but yeah, I just wasn't like it just went from being like a normal conversation about the hobby and stuff to just this rip on this guy, and I was just like, oh, wasn't expecting that. Have you checked out Model Train Media? No, I don't think I've ever heard of that channel. Have you ever watched any uploads from people who made train footage back in the 90s? I really like watching the old VHS rail fanning videos, yeah. It's interesting to see, I don't know, how operations used to go on some of these railroads. I was watching one recently. I think it was maybe Metra, and they had a whole bunch of old Burlington Northern units they were still using. I forget the name of that video, but it was pretty good. What about RBP trains for O-Gauge content? Yeah, I think he makes good videos. A lot of his stuff is more about running equipment, but I like it. It's got a really nice layout, I'll say that. I watch a lot of classic car repair channels. Yeah, I do too. I really like Junkyard Digs. That's a pretty good repair channel. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I like. No Nonsense Know How. It's a pretty good one. You two did a live stream together one time. Yeah, me and RVP Trains. That was, I think that was almost 2 years ago now. But yeah, it was cool doing a live. That's the first time I think I've ever done a live stream with somebody else, and yeah, it was something a lot of people wanted, which I was kind of surprised by because a lot of his stuff is O scale, and I'm more into HO. But yeah, he mentioned that in a video, and so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Speaking of unhinged, there's a series of Thomas parodies. This was years ago. This is when I was like a kid. I was like, I don't know, maybe 11 years old, and there was this channel, and they made like Thomas videos, which were a parody of the real thing with HO scale models, but they were kind of crazy. Like, it was like they were swearing, and there were these like really graphic accidents and things like that happened. And as a kid, I got a real charge out of that, but it was pretty dark stuff. I don't know if that channel even still exists, but yeah, that was something else. I think one Thomas. This is probably the only Thomas channel I watch on YouTube, and I mostly like his videos, which are not Thomas, are videos by the Unlucky Tug. I find he makes pretty good stuff. I only caught one of your live streams. Welcome. What is a good tool you could recommend for locomotive maintenance? I think like probably the three most important things is a small screwdriver set. The second thing is a fiberglass pencil, because you can use that for cleaning up contacts, the motor, even the wheels a little bit, if you don't have a track bright. And then some like Labelle 102, some kind of basic oil. Bungalow Haven Railroad is a good channel. I've never heard of that channel. I'll have to look it up. Gandy Dancer. No, I feel like that thing has been brought over. Let's have a look. You put a dummy engine behind one as a trailing unit. I'll see if I can. I don't have too many dummy engines. I guess I never brought the Gandy Dancer over. I don't know why the Gandy Dancer also sounds like the name of some sort of weird 60s Disney film. Foamer time, Harrison. How many DCC engines do you have? I would say about 40. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another 4449 Train Productions Films video. Today we're rail fanning on the northwest subdivision of the Montreal-Toronto Canine route. And we're going to be looking out for a Brazilian AC44I, which is being headed by 3 mid-train DPUs. I'm lost. I'm doing my my rail fanning persona. I like how in the rail fanning community, there's basically like 2 groups of people. You got the I don't know. We'll call them the square beside the the square-headed ones, the ones who are, very professional in their videos. They have a very calm cadence, and they're just out there filming some videos about some trains. And then you got the other ones who go out and they just start screaming at whatever goes by. I can never remember the guy's name, but I'm thinking of that one. He's almost always wearing like a Penline shirt, and he goes out and starts swearing at whatever's going by. I want to say Robert, but I don't think that's right. Very monotone, sounding like they're a tennis announcer. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Which one do you like? They're both good. I think the unhinged one's a little more entertaining, though. Golf announcer, yeah. What's the best HO skill switches to prevent derailments? I mean, the wider the switch, the less likely it is to cause derailments, and I'd probably say Pico. None. They're all bad. Have you seen Canadian Pacific, Kansas City Southern's America 250 anniversary paint scheme? I have. I think they did a really good job with it. This is kind of a cool shot of the layout because you can't see the gap between this side and the other, so it almost makes it look like this is just continuous. I was thinking of the guy who in the UK wears a camera on his head. Oh, yeah, who's that guy? I've seen his videos. I think he has like 1 million followers on TikTok, and yeah, I've seen some of his shorts, YouTube shorts. I'm trying to remember his name. How about the one who laughs too much? I don't know if I know who that is. Zip ties and bias plies is a good Canadian. Zip ties and bias plies is kind of like your average older dude in the country. I feel like I know some zip ties and bias plies kind of people. He's pretty funny. A little bit unhinged. Definitely not the kind of if you don't like swearing and kind of crude humor, definitely not a channel I would check out. But if you want to watch a guy mess around with old trucks and stuff, he's quite a charge. Did I ever ask SMT what his favorite paint? My favorite BNSF paint scheme is the H2, the H1, the one before this. This is the one I really like. That is the H2. Okay. Pumpkin number 1. Yeah, I can't help but think it's from playing too much Microsoft Train Simulator as a kid. The amount of hours, I mean, I know it was the Dash 9, but the amount of hours I spent playing that game, running over Marias Pass. I want to get a DCC equipped Dash 9 and try to input the sounds of Microsoft Train Simulator into the Locomotive. By the way, Harrison, I'm using my graphics user interface. You can now switch turnouts remotely on the pop-up screen. That's good to know. I'll have to try out the simulator again at some point. A Canadian YouTuber I enjoy time to time is Steve Wallace. The guy stealth camps in some crazy places. You should expand your YouTube empire and start doing home renovation videos of your new house. It's been suggested before. I think I'll stick to train videos. I mean, I'm happy what I've been able to personally do in terms of, improving the house, but I'm definitely not an expert. I might do one fixing up the yard for the garden railroad, though. Converting my destroyed gardening shed into garden railroad empire in 24 hours. That's what I'll call it. Talk about cursing and whatnot. Construction just brings that out in you. Oh, absolutely. I remember one day I was at the farm, and my buddy Gator, he was working there, and he was hammering away on a door, and something happened, and the door fell, and he just started swearing and stuff. And my girlfriend Chloe was there, and she's like, "Why do you guys always swear every time they're building something?" And he's like, "Chloe, you know how women say, oh, when I'm baking a cake, I make this thing with love? Well, for men, you build with hate." We were all laughing about that. I watch crazy quantity for camping videos. I feel like I don't watch a whole lot of camping content. I have seen some van life videos. There's this guy Mav, and he does some interesting stuff with old vehicles. But yeah, that's about it. I really like the channels. I mean, like Vice Grip Garage. You know, they travel across country in an old car. There's always just that sense, like sometimes these cars are in just such bad condition. It's like, is it really going to make it? Is it really going to make it? And it's crazy just how bad the condition can be, and they can still run. I remember one time watching a video. It was a Junkyard Digs video, and it was an old Ford of some kind, like an old Ford station wagon. And the pistons were so bad that oil was actually spraying out the exhaust because it was just blowing by the rings. And so the engine hardly had any oil pressure. And the entire video, you know, he keeps implying like, this car is not going to make it. This car is not going to make it. And I think it was an 800-mile drive. And he ends up getting home, and by the end of the video, he's doing burnouts in the driveway. And I'm just like, that is wild. I gotta give those guys credit. I'm sure making those videos must be exciting, but I can't imagine also how stressful it must be to be driving through the middle of nowhere in an older, unreliable car. Because when I take my Oldsmobile a little bit too far, sometimes I'm kind of like, is this thing going to strand me? And it's not even in, you know, that bad condition. I've sort of thought a couple times about actually doing something similar to the automotive channels with model trains. Like, can we make this Tyco run again and drive 800 scale miles or something ridiculous like that? That's why we have AAA. AAA has never helped me once in my life. They've been useless. I don't know, maybe in some places they're better, but around here I've had very bad luck. I got rid of them. I don't use them anymore. How's the RJ Corman steam engine coming along? I haven't really made any changes other than removing the smoke deflectors. Jersey Bill says they must like me. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it just depends on who you have in your area. You have yeah, it is CAA here. I think AAA and CAA might be cross-compatible, though. Don't quote me on that. How's the new layout treating you? So far, I'm loving it. I feel like this new extension has been working pretty well. I mean, there have been a few derailments in this live stream, but fundamentally, it's been quite reliable. So I'm happy to see that. Still a lot to add and still some adjustments to the track I need to make, but overall, it's doing it. AAA is pointless where I live. If you need a tow truck, it will be an average of 5 hours to get one. That's the exact problem I've run into. Like a couple times when I did need them, it was like, yeah, we can get you somebody, but it's going to take 5 hours. It's like, I don't have 5 hours and stuff. Meanwhile, I call up like a local towing company, and they're there within, I kid you not, 15 minutes, $80 to bring the car to a garage to get fixed, or, you know, in the Oldsmobile's case, back home. I'll go with that. You know, it's kind of crazy too, because I mean, like Gatineau and Ottawa, it's not like I'm living out in the middle of nowhere or something. Like, I don't know. You'd think that they would have better coverage in the area, but I don't know. The wood paneling is giving me sentimental 70s flashbacks. Well, this part of the house was built in 1975, so it probably is genuine from the 70s. I left a comment on one of your repair videos the other day, and thanks for your guide. I was able to get my Chrome Bachmann 307 Santa Fe running again like new. Yeah, I saw that comment. Sorry, I haven't responded yet, but yeah, I was really happy to hear that. That was on my Canadian National video that I saw that comment. So yeah, I appreciate hearing that. To make more videos, kind of directly showing how to fix certain types of drives, but it's good that a video that I made like 5 years ago is still relevant. Is Helgen a good brand based on performance? I don't know if I've worked with any of their stuff. I think Helgen is more of a UK brand. Wood paneling is nice, provided the basement stays dry. Well, I hope I can keep it. Yeah, there have been some people who have suggested that I paint it. I think I'm just going to leave it as is. I don't know. It's funny. I think the other side of the house was actually built with better materials. Like you can see in that room, there's actual tongue and groove. But I still like this stuff. SMT, the guy you were talking about is Francis Bourgeois. Yeah, it's definitely the right name. You still have the Windows XP screensaver on the mural wall. Yeah, I don't want to get rid of it. On the last video with the two Big Boy engines running by, there were a lot of people saying that it made for a nice backdrop, and I tend to agree. That's why I'm hoping to make the bridge that I want to build across here sort of low profile so it doesn't mess with that. I mean, from a practical standpoint, it would be way better just to build this table all the way across there, but just having that in the middle of that piece of art, I don't like it. So I'm just going to try to build a bridge out of steel, and by using steel, I'll be able to make it a lot thinner than a lot of the actual HO scale bridges that they sell. So hopefully it will work. How many Big Boy engines is that now? I think that it's the fourth one. I had another one, but it was part of a giveaway a few years ago, so that one's off. What locomotive paint scheme is a memorable one that you can think of off the top of your head? Modern or fallen flag? Well, I want to say Penn Central for whatever reason, but that's a bad answer. I don't know why. That is just what comes to mind. Wood trestle bridge. I don't think the bridge is going to be very realistic. What I was thinking is just getting some 1 by 1/4 inch pieces of steel, and then I was just going to build straight across, and then in a few spots in the picture you can see how there's like trees and stuff. I was just going to add a little L bracket in the wall, and because it's darker, it will blend in with the scene. And then just put the whole thing together with a welder. How many Australian trains do you think you have? You probably have about, I don't know, maybe 10 Australian locomotives in total. Or some of your structures from Walthers? Yeah, there are a few Walthers structures in here. Some of them, I'm pretty sure Northern Power is a Walther structure. Pretty sure the Watt Factory, I think that's a... I want to say that's Woodland Scenics. The mill might be Walther's. Have you ever been to Trinidad? No, I've never been out that far. The furthest I think I've ever been from Canada is probably France. Is your Olds 98 a 2-door or a 4-door? It's a 4-door. A lot of people don't like the 4-doors as much. I know the 2-doors are a little bit more popular because they're more sporty, but personally I like the 4-door for two reasons. First of all, the boring one is that it's cheaper on insurance. The second one is that it's just a lot easier if you're taking people places. Everyone can just load in easier. You don't have to pull the seats back and people are crawling over you and stuff. Yeah, the 4-door is hilarious too because being the 70s, every door has a cigarette lighter and an ashtray. They had their priorities straight back then for sure. Got to make sure no one's left out. Four-door, it's nice for extra room, easier to load stuff in the back. Pillow seats, yeah. It's crazy how big the trunk is too. I can just throw like a bicycle in the back. Can you run one of the Australian trains? Yeah, sure. My old man used to own a blue Nova that scared the crap out of me every time it started up. Remember my dad had a 2001 Corolla, and on really cold mornings, the belts would squeak, and for some reason that really creeped me out because it would just be sitting in the driveway. It'd be, dark out on a winter morning, and it would just be there, and the squeaking belt just sounded like a little chuckle, and for some reason that really messed with me. I didn't want to get in the car. I was like, this thing is possessed. How's your grandmother? Happier than ever. It's fall. It's spring, and so she gets to be back out in the garden, which is her favorite thing. So yeah, she's quite a happy camper. Really packed a bunch, but we had to sell it. No one wanted to see it go. Try to get a bit of a new camera angle here. We'll see if we can just get the train kind of going diagonally. Not diagonally, but what would this be? Horizontally? I don't even know why I have this. What is the one area in working with scenery that makes you feel pressured and or uneasy making a rock face painting? Not really. I think the thing, I wouldn't even say it makes me feel uneasy, but the thing that drives me a bit crazy sometimes is when I'm trying to get like a certain piece of track to work, like a curve. Because in the videos, like where I'm building up the layout, right, I'll be having a problem with something, and then the video will then cut to the solution I found. And I'll always explain that. I'm not trying to hide a problem or anything like that. Like whenever there's a mistake or just a flaw with the design, I like explain what I did. But what you don't see in between that is that there's 2 hours of problem solving where I'm just adjusting things and, trying to test something out and just see if I can actually make it work. And so there moments like that, sometimes that can be a bit frustrating. But no, the scenery I find is some of the easiest part. Like you don't have to think too much about it. You just kind of start putting stuff together, and I find it kind of works. And yeah, there have been some times like I built a mountain and I don't like the angle of it. Like there's a weird face to it. I just take a saw, cut the rock face off, get rid of it. Or sometimes I'll have a mountain that doesn't look like it has enough ridges, and I'll add stuff onto it. So, scenery's the easier part in my opinion. It's track work that gives you trouble. Have you ever messed with a Cura scale? I don't think I have. Derailments drive me crazy because you can have many locomotives run through your section of tracks that run like clockwork, but then there's one specific locomotive that derails. Yeah, exactly, and that's the problem that I usually encounter, which is, I've got a lot of different equipment I'm running, and so just to your point, you can have many pieces which don't have an issue with it, and then one piece that does, and you have to be careful too, because sometimes the issue is actually with the engine. Like it's not that it can't handle the track work, it's that something on the engine isn't like turning right, or it's unbalanced or something. I remember this one guy years ago, he bought a Rivarossi Challenger, and he was trying to get it to work on his layout, and he was convinced, because it just kept derailing in one curve, he was convinced the problem was with his track work, because it was just that one spot. So he ripped up the entire curve, rebuilt it, runs the engine through, same problem, and he discovered there was a problem where the drive shaft inside the engine, it was popping out, and then it wouldn't reseat, and so it was locking up the truck. But then it would, I guess, when the engine straightened out, it would go back into place. So he had taken apart a whole area of his layout for nothing. So it's just something to keep in mind, definitely, when working on a layout. You run some British steam locomotives? Yeah, I think so. Smart idea to have a fire extinguisher in the background. Yeah, I bought a whole bunch of new stuff for this house. This house did not have any smoke detectors when I moved in, or carbon monoxide or any of that stuff, so I bought a whole bunch of safety stuff. And this fire extinguisher came with the house. It's in the green. I think it would probably work, but I don't want to take my chances, so I just bought another one. And then, yeah, if anything gets a little too rowdy, got another option. Should I be concerned that my Santa Fe F7 is abnormally faster than my other engines on my layout? I wouldn't worry about that. Usually, the sign of something going wrong is that the engine is running really slow. Like, if an engine's running slow and it sounds really labored, usually means there's a problem with the drive or with the motor. If an engine's running fast, it's not really a problem. The motor is cooling properly. It's very rare I've seen a motor fail from being over revved. It's almost always because either there was a problem with the engine or somebody was straining it too hard. Let's see if I can find a good British engine to put on the layout here. I haven't run this thing in a long time, so that might be kind of fun. It's interesting how this is wired. It's got this contact plate and then that soldered on there. You should also check for aluminum wiring if your house was built in the 70s. It's probably a good idea, but I suspect the house got a major electrical overhaul. Everything, all the switches and a lot of the panel and everything all looks new. So I mean, it's not impossible. They just spliced in old wiring, but so far, from an electrical standpoint, I haven't seen anything too suspect. I was really lucky, actually, that there was a modern panel, because the original house had a oil furnace, and then I upgraded that to an electric furnace. But of course, you need a really high amp breaker. For whatever reason, they decided to put in a 200 amp breaker, even though the house was, all run off of oil. So I don't know why they did that, but I was lucky, because I probably wouldn't have been able to afford removing the furnace if they hadn't chosen that. There's so much wrong with this. How about your grandmother's Hiawatha? I don't think I haven't brought her Hiawatha over here yet. $200 amp panel is minimum code now. Any updates on the Oldsmobile? It was running really well, and then the other day I was moving it in the driveway and it just shut off, and it fired back up. But that was a little bit weird. It hasn't done that in a while, so I don't know. I'm going to retune it. Probably just check in on the timing and make sure the thermal choke is working, because that sometimes can go bad. But other than that, it's good. I actually used it to move the boat the other day. I didn't know if it had enough jam to do that, but it did, so yeah, I can't complain. Be right back. I'm just going to go get myself a V8. Hey, will you take trades on your motorcycle? Well, what do you have? How's about a V8? Just don't say what kind. Check out the fuel filter. Yeah, that's a good idea. I should probably just put new fuel in it, honestly. How's the cat? Well, wherever he is, probably doing well. Your mic sounds a lot better in this live stream. You can hear the trains running again. Right now, I've got my regular recording microphone hooked up, so I'm glad to hear that. But unfortunately, I was hoping to be able to use my phone's internal microphone, but yeah, there's a bit of a flaw with that. Do you have an America 250 unit? I've got a some Spirit of 76 engines. Your thoughts on the potential Union Pacific Norfolk Southern Railroad merger? I don't have too many opinions on that. Personally, I don't think railroads merging is really a good thing because there's just less competition, and of course they're gonna make up some stuff about, oh, we can be more competitive with our prices because we won't have to be negotiating with other railroads. One thing I did find really funny though is that Canadian Pacific Kansas City Southern made a post saying how bad it would be if Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern merged, and it's like, do you guys not realize that like 2 years ago, Canadian Pacific and Kansas City were not the same railroad? So I don't know. It's funny how it's one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of situations there. One of our cats swallowed a meter of long ribbon and it cost $5,000 to have it removed. Ouch. Yeah, that's a doozy. The family has no regrets about this because we wanted him to be around for as long as he could. But yeah, one of Nerf Cat's visits to the vet was, I think, $4,000. So they're lucky little buggers. Are you planning on doing track around the furnace? I might run track there. I'm a little less sure though. I forget what the rationale behind that was. I don't know. I had some sort of a reason where I thought maybe it would be better if I didn't run a track all the way through and I just went like through here for now. I don't know. Oh yeah, it was because I was thinking about building an O scale setup in there, and so I don't know. I mean, I could probably run both, but I'm just not sure. Didn't they break up? Who broke up? It's been over 10 years since the railway disaster at Lac-Mégantic. Which railway do you think is at fault? I don't know. I don't know too many specific details about that event. It was a big deal for the province of Quebec, though. One of the worst things that's ever happened here. I mean, that was about 4 hours away from where I live, so it wasn't like a local event, but there were people at stores locally actually doing fundraisers for that. Like stores in the area, so that was how much it shook the province. Just asking if you and Chloe were getting married. Eventually. Into aviation at all? Not a whole lot. I have a dream of one day owning a Cessna, but got a lot more fish to fry before then. Have you soldered the tracks for your yard? Not all of them. There's still quite a few I need to solder, but I just don't want to solder everything because, again, I still have to add the tracks on for the bridge and everything. So I just don't want to go making everything kind of permanent and then have to undo it if I want to change it. Any plans for the other side of the layout, industrial or residential? Probably industrial. I think this part is going to be very similar to what it was before. As for the sides of the layout, I think it's also going to be industrial. I think I'm going to have little industries along the entire route on the outskirts and places to stop. That way I can run some ops. What time is it for you? It's 12:33. You could add a dock. Yeah, well, somebody else was mentioning I should build like an intermodal yard, so I don't know. Have some container ship. Should have a container ship in the port, and it could be called the Ever Given. Off topic, because do you play any video games besides simulations? I don't play a whole lot of video games these days. When I was younger, I was playing a lot of Minecraft, and I'm also a pretty big fan of the Grand Theft Auto series. I don't know. I was things kind of like when I was a kid. I was huge into model railroading. I didn't play video games, I would say, until I was about maybe 10 years old, and then when I was around 10, I started really getting into video games, and I got into Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto and a lot of the stuff. And that was partly because I had a lot of friends in high school and stuff who were playing those things, so it was like a good social thing. But then after high school, I don't know, I was looking for something different, and then that's kind of when I got back into model railroading, and model railroading kind of took me away from video games. So I'll still play video games like maybe once a month, but even if that, I think there's sometimes I probably go 3 months without playing any video games. I stopped playing at the PlayStation 3, realizing the amount of hours I was wasting on my console. Yeah, like, I don't judge anybody who plays video games. Again, I do it myself. And I feel like somebody could make a similar argument for model railroading. I think they could say, oh, you're wasting your time like playing with toy trains and it's not accomplishing anything. But this is a weird thing I've noticed about the difference between video games, and this is just me. Maybe other people are not the same way, but I found video games, I'd like, they were really fun and I would enjoy playing them, and then afterwards I would feel very empty, like I hadn't accomplished anything. And for some reason with model railroading, it doesn't work like that. I do something on my model railroad, and I have a sense of accomplishment after. And I don't know if it's because even though you're doing something that's not necessarily like productive, like a job, it's still accomplishing something, like you're still developing a skill. And I mean, I don't know, I've learned a lot about electricity through model railroading, and I've learned a lot about carpentry through model railroading, and It has taught me a lot, so I mean, maybe that's why I don't feel that same sense of like lost productivity. But yeah, it's just something I've noticed. Do you ever consider giving a name to an HO scale town? Oh, it already does have a name. It's called Dunderville. Is there a Dunder Mifflin in Dunderville? The similarities are not a coincidence. You learned patience and procrastination. Dunderville is in Niagara. I didn't know that. That's funny. It's not modeled after any real place. It's loosely based off a lot of places, but it's not like a replica of anything. Could you add a scrapyard so you could repurpose junk you have in your collection or can't fix? That could be an option for some yard queens. What I really want to do is build a diorama with a bunch of abandoned locomotives, make them all look rusty. Because I accidentally bought this lot of plastic HO scale engines, and be a good use for those. Are you cheering for Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup Finals, semifinals? Yeah, let's go with that. I don't really care much about sports and stuff, but yeah, I'll root for Montreal in this case. I don't even know who they're playing against. Are you a hockey fan at all? Only as much as I'm obligated to be as being somebody who lives in Canada. I don't I don't dislike the sport or anything. It's not just hockey. I just generally I don't know, I'm not big into sports. I will go to like see a hockey game in person. That's cool. Went to see a football game with my dad. That's cool, but I'm not the kind of guy that puts the TV on and watches that or yeah, none of that kind of stuff. Canadians are born with the skates on. Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I forget the name of the singer, but years ago at a hockey game, there was a guy, and he was. I think he was singing "O Canada." I don't know, but anyway, he was skating around while he was singing it, and for whatever reason, they had laid out a carpet over the ice, and it blended in with the rink because it was dark. And the guy trips over it, and he just keeps singing. He doesn't even stop. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. In Canada, when you grow up skating when you're like, 3 years old and beyond, you fall so many times that it's just a natural thing. So it's probably why he was able to keep it together. That's how I feel about baseball after going to a game at Coors Field in my home state. It's kind of ruined watching TV for me. Well, I wasn't the first time I went to like a football game. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and yeah, we headed on over and stuff. And the stadium is just massive and stuff. And then they play the American anthem, and then two jets fly over, and everyone's just having a good time and stuff. It was really cool. I loved it. You mean like America? Yeah, American football, not soccer. Do you prefer Tyco locomotives or Bachmann? For older locomotives, in terms of reliability, I would actually say Bachmann. I think they've got the upper hand with the pancake drives. But in terms of actually making cool stuff, Tyco all the way. No other company made things like the Golden Eagle and well, there were some other companies that made the Spirit of 76, but they made the Canadiana. That was pretty cool. They made the Silver Streak, the Chattanooga Choo Choo. Like, I don't know. Tyco is its own breed. I think that's why it's looked upon so fondly. It's too bad they weren't putting better drives in them. I think they would have had a little bit of a better reputation. I heard from some sources that the model train industry will grow to be worth $1 billion by roughly 2032. What do you think? I mean, if it really has gotten that big, great. I don't know where those figures would be coming from, but I guess that's a good sign. What are your thoughts on 3D printing? It's okay. I feel like the technology still has a long way to go before it can be like used in terms of model railroading. Because like for making details and stuff, like stuff for buildings and little like decorations for locomotives and stuff, I think it's great. For actually making parts, I've had mixed results. Like I've made some drive shafts for locomotives to the same specifications as the originals, and they're not as strong. So, I'm sure it will get there, but like anything, it's just got to develop more. With the price of Rapido locomotives, I'm not surprised. Yeah, well, and I'm pretty sure Hornby got bought out by some sort of conglomerate, which also owns a sports store or something. Bachmann itself is not a very big company, but they are connected to Kadar Group, which is pretty large. Depends on the plastic you're using with 3D printing. Well, I think resin printing might be a little bit better. Just with the top-down method, I think if you're just making things with little strings, like it's just harder for it to bond together as well. I got that source from DIY Digital Railroad. I mean, it's not impossible. I just don't know how they would calculate that. Because a lot of model railroad companies are not publicly listed. So it's not very clear as to what their revenue or their profit is. Hornby, I think, was publicly listed, but I believe they're being taken off the exchange. The big companies are struggling. Yeah, I don't know where things are like kind of stand in terms of the industry. I do know some people. I'm not going to name stores, but some people I know in the industry who have said that lately sales have not been that great across the board, and they're connected with other people in the industry. Um, I still don't buy into this whole dying hobby narrative. Like I'm so tired of a lot of channels making videos and stuff saying, "Oh, model railroading is going down the tubes." Like I don't deny that. Like obviously, if you make something too unaffordable, that is a problem. Like the hobby has problems. There's no denying that, but I don't know. There's so many people, and they just act like model railroading is going to be gone by tomorrow. And I think it's growing just because it's like as long as there's an interest in trains, there's going to be an interest in model trains. That's all good. It's just a matter of I don't know how well these manufacturers, provide. But one of the people I know who sells model trains, what he was saying is that like the Walthers train line diesels, not the train line diesels. Maybe it's mainline. I don't know. It's their budget sound locomotives. Apparently, those things have been selling like hotcakes, especially with youngsters in the hobby. And I think the reason is that they're modern. Like I think a lot of the youngsters in the hobby they want to buy Gevos and stuff like that, and a lot of them are too expensive. So the Walthers ones are kind of like affordable enough that it lets them get into the hobby. But I'd be interested if somebody made like something that was similar to like a Ferteschi Gevo, like just sort of like a lower quality Gevo, but still a Gevo, if those would sell well. Can you please run a daylight? Yeah, sure. Let's see if we can get the brass one to stretch its legs. I'm amazed that combining this with a knuckle coupler didn't detach. You run the daylight with batching coaches. I could throw the Amtrak set behind it. Have you watched the Millennium Force's Stupid Orange series? A long time ago. I was just about to say, oh, the brass engine is running so nicely. I like them daylights. Have you ever had a train fall into the canyon? I did on the previous layout. Do you still have plexiglass for the sides of the layout? I don't think I didn't throw it out, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to add a little bit of floor trim around the edges. See if that works. Huh, the other daylight derailed in the same spot. Very interesting. The irony is not lost on me that when I was building this new section of the layout and testing out the track work, I tested it out with this locomotive because out of everything in my collection, this was the #1 suspect. It wasn't the big boy locomotives or any of the other ones. It was this one that was going to derail. Finally get the track work working. This thing has no problems. I leave it a month and the temperature changes or something shifts in the track and now both of them are derailing. You can never win. Not to mention the British engine, which has larger wheels and slightly shorter wheelbase, was going through there without any problems. Do you have plans to get any Australian steam locomotives? Well, I actually got one in that junk lot a few years ago. I just need to fix it up. But it's more than just mechanical issues. It also was just getting a really bad paint job. So if I fix that engine up, it's going to be a full thing. It's going to be a complete restoration. Is the PO box open back up? Not at the moment. These Kato drives have some real zip to them. I don't even know how much voltage you're supposed to give those. Where's the big boy? I was running it earlier. SMT, can you answer a question I have? Sure. Do you like the W and LE SD40-2 1776 and the two HO scale models there are? I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've seen any pictures of those. I don't know what they look like. Wheeling in Lake Erie. Okay, so I know that railroad, but I haven't seen the 1776 engine on. How many trains can you run at once? If you count the trolley line, I could currently run 4 trains independently. I have to get, if I got the circuit under the mountain layout going, I could probably get 5 running independently. I need advice on where to get some good, cheap track for my first HO scale layout. A lot of hobby shops and train shows will have used nickel silver track, and you can save some money buying it used. Just be really careful. Well, I mean, you can buy brass track, but a lot of model railroaders don't like brass track. It was more common in like the 70s and 80s. It's a little bit more prone to oxidizing. You have to clean it quite regularly. But you can find it cheap, so that's always an option. What I would avoid with a 10-foot pole is steel track, though. Never buy steel track. And you have to be careful because steel track looks very similar to nickel silver, but they are not alike. If ever you're buying a used track, it's a bit of an odd thing to do, but you could always bring a magnet with you, and you'll know very quickly if it's steel. Any online options? Not really, to be honest. I mean, you could try to buy used track off of eBay, and maybe you would save a little bit, but I feel like at that point you might be better off just buying brand new track. Don't steal track. That's why they call it steel track, because it steals money from your bank account. I like brass track. It's cheap, cleans up good, and conducts good. Yeah, I obviously I like nickel silver more than brass track. Like I find you have to clean brass track more often, but I feel like brass track gets lumped in with steel track. And honestly, I used brass track on the mountain layout here, and it works. So I feel like it gets a little bit more of a bad rap than it deserves. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because you know, if you're really trying to save money because it has such a bad reputation, there are some stores that will give away brass track. Like they'll to them it's garbage. Even there was one train store I went to, and they hate brass track so much that they rip it apart and then they take the brass down to the scrap yard. It's worth more as scrap metal than it is as track. Steel looks different, no shine like nickel silver. It has a bit more of like a bluish tinge to it, but I don't know. I feel like if you're not careful, you can definitely buy some by accident. I'll see if I can find some examples of it. I thought there was some in this. Let me go check the back. I definitely have some steel track around here. All right, can everybody tell me which is which? I don't want to ask too many questions, but what's the best place to get the cheapest track? Well, if you want to buy brand new, it's hard for me to say because in Canada the shipping usually makes the others a bad deal. Maybe Train World or something. I don't know if anybody has guesses as to where to get the cheapest track new. Feel free to share the right one. The left one is nickel silver. Okay, well, I hate to tell everybody, I did something bad. They're both steel. But in all seriousness, you can kind of tell which is which. This one actually is nickel silver. But you see how if you're not careful and this is mixed in with a bin, I don't know, it can be easy to tell them apart. Like, I don't know. Just at the right light you can tell which is the good one, but the one on the right. Magnets stick to steel. Yeah, well, that's what I was mentioning earlier. It looks a little weird maybe to go out in public and do this at a train show, but you could just bring a fridge magnet with you and tack it to stuff. You can't buy pieces in bulk, which always gets you more for your money. Well, yeah, it's kind of what I mean. Like, I mean, you can go on eBay and buy like a lot of track, and you might save some money there, but you have to be really careful because, again, you know, especially on camera, like. I don't know. Not all sellers on eBay are great, and also buying switches used, I find, can be a real trick. Like I'll buy used curves and used pieces of straight track, even used flex track. I put a lot of that on my layout, but the thing that I find really bad about used switches is they're almost always defective, and I think there are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is that a switch is a lot more complicated than a curved piece of track or a straight piece of track. So if there's like a bend or something in it, it's going to show up a lot more in a switch than it would one of those other pieces of track. The other theory I have, though, is that a lot of model railroaders out there, if they have a switch that's been giving them problems for a long time, instead of continuing to troubleshoot it, they'll just replace it. But then they're stuck with a second switch, which is bad, but it doesn't feel right just to throw that in the garbage. So I think the reason I've ended up with so many bad switches from train shows is because I'm buying somebody else's problem. There was a switch on their layout they didn't like, and they said, okay, I'm going to get rid of this thing. I'm going to sell it for $5 at the train show, off my hands, and then I install it on my layout and discover it's junk. So I try when I can to buy brand new switches, at least for the main line. Well, if Harrison wasn't a trickster. Yeah, but that's my point. That's what the sellers will do, but they're not going to say I did a bad thing. They're just going to say, all right, have a nice day. I have a bunch of old trains that don't run. They look to be in good condition. I'm going to try to send them. Well, right now I'm not taking any repairs just because I feel like I should chew through some of the ones I have in that bench there. But if you want any advice on fixing them, I'm going to be happy to try to help. Could you run the Atlantic that you repaired for your grandmother? I don't have it right now. It's still at my parents' house. I like the wood trestle on top of the canyon. I hope it will work. I'm going to have to figure out a way to support it. Like it, I feel like it fits the scene well, but I just broke it a little bit. But if that was a heavy engine, it definitely would have done the same. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to glue something under it or something. It's just it's too flexible. I think that they built this. Yeah, well, it's not even one single piece. Look at that. So the rail is pretty much the entire structure here. Because you see how the beams on the bottom are separate? It's got a lot of play. Bill would cross underneath. What does that mean? You could stick 2 metal rods under it and have the ends of the rods go into the sides of the canyon for more support. That's a good idea. That might be it, or at least something along those lines. I was kind of thinking about... The trick is the angle of it. I mean, maybe I could bend a piece of metal to go under there. Yeah, there's got to be a way. I mean, this was on somebody's layout. I assume it must have worked properly at some point. I just don't know if they had pillars under it or what the case was. Build one. Yeah. You need cross timbers. Yeah, I don't know. There has to be some solution for this. Anyway, I should probably wrap up the live stream because it's 1:16 in the morning, and also my phone just gave me a 10% battery warning. It actually warned me this time, so at least there's one good thing about the update. But yeah, we'll call it an evening. I'll read a few last comments here, and then call it a night. Adios. Where can I get the Ather and Blue Box Streamliner cars and RDC parts? I don't know. A lot of Athearn Blue Box engines share parts, so unless it's something specific to that model, like you just need gears for it or something, you could probably just grab another Blue Box engine and siphon the gears off it. What do you think of Broadway Limited? They're okay. I haven't worked with a crazy amount of their stuff. I think their new stuff is probably better than their old stuff, though. I wasn't a big fan of their older style of decoders, at least in terms of sound. Trying to program those is tricky. Any tips for quartering locomotive wheels by eye? It's hard to explain this perfectly, but I find if you're quartering by eye, if you feel the play between each wheel set and it's roughly even, that usually means you've quartered it right. It's weird. There's like a certain amount of play. It feels right, but trying to adjust it correctly is a little bit tricky. Just mess around with it. Eventually, you'll get it. You like the Scotsman? Yeah, I like the Scotsman. All right, well, I think I'll call it an evening there. Thank you all so much for joining in this evening. As usual, I had a lot of fun running trains and chatting with everybody, and appreciated a lot of the comments, a lot of entertaining ones or just nice comments. So, yeah, and all the questions are all good too. Anyway, have a great night, everybody.